collection Silver Surfer: The Rebirth of Thanos. This book collects 5 issues of Silver Surfer, as well as the 2-issue miniseries THANOS QUEST, which were both written by Thanos creator Jim Starlin and drawn by Ron Lim, who would go on to work with Starlin on the entirety of the Infinity Trilogy. Starlin planned to use Thanos for an upcoming story, but as those who saw my last video know, the last time we saw Thanos, 13 years before this, he was frozen in carbonite. I mean turned to stone. So they needed some kind of story to resurrect him, and what better place to do it than in the pages of the already cosmic Silver Surfer. So let's see how he does it and take this away. The series opens with Silver Surfer taking a much needed nap on this desolate planet. He wakes to find himself in Breath of the Wild. Yo, I bet there's some moblins in that skull hut. Oh, no, it's Death, sitting on a mound of skulls on a throne made of giant vampire teeth? Okay, not gonna lie, that's a pretty cool throne. You do you, Death. You do you. Death's servants don't seem to notice Surfer, so he realizes he's still dreaming. They're also carrying this locked chest, and they open it so this big scary ghost face can pop out. The face claims to be Death's most loyal servant, and promises to go to any ends in order to serve her. Before he can reveal who he is though, one of the servants interjects to say he's made these kind of promises before, and failed to live up to them. Also, now there's something that could potentially stand in his way, the Silver Surfer. Surfer realizes they actually can see him right as Ghostface blasts him out of the building. The dream then proceeds to get really trippy until Surfer finally wakes up. When he does, he finds that it wasn't all a dream after all, as the frightening Ghostface is now a fully fleshed out living being. Yep, it's Thanos. You can tell cause the chair. Also, he says his name. Thanos takes Surfer on a brief tour of the galaxy, primarily looking at Earth, where he makes a surprisingly compelling and rational argument against the dangers of overpopulation. He shows the inevitable future of destruction that unchecked population growth is destined to lead to. Then he takes us to another planet called Solaria, where these peaceful little monkey guys are the dominant life form. They have no natural predators and resources are plenty, so they have no concept of war and spend their days eating and breeding. Thanos estimates that their population growth is destined to increase within a matter of generations to a point that can't be sustained by the resources of the planet. And that will lead to famine, war, and cannibalism on this once peaceful paradise. Surfer says, surely they can be taught, to which Thanos replies, they have the intelligence, but not the motivation. That message hits pretty close to home after all that talk about Earth and its overpolluting and whatnot. Well played, Starlin. Well played. Unfortunately, after all this reasonable talk, we find Thanos' grand solution to be simply killing half the population of the entire universe, which obviously good guys like Silver Surfer aren't really going to accept as an answer. This conversation was mostly just a trick to distract Surfer anyway, as we see that by teleporting Surfer straight from Earth to Solaria, he caused him to inadvertently bring along certain bacteria and germs that would prove fatal for the Solarians, making Surfer an unwitting partner in a global genocide. Damn Thanos, that messed up. I like that this whole conversation was mostly just meant to confuse and disorient Surfer, and we're left with the impression that Thanos doesn't really care one way or the other about population. However, in the movie Avengers: Infinity War, the writers seem to take this conversation and make it the primary motivation behind everything Thanos does. So for fans of the movie, this might be the single most important issue of a comic that Thanos appears in pre-Infinity Gauntlet. Surfer leaves Thanos in order to help the world he accidentally nearly destroyed, and when he tries to find him again, he is unable. So he heads to Avengers Mansion to get some background on Thanos, and we see that Starlin hasn't lost his love of long recountings of exact panels from previous comics. Just instead of trying to condense them all onto a single page, now it takes almost a quarter of the issue. There's an interlude where we see Kronos realizes that Thanos is still alive, and so he resurrects Drax the Destroyer, who had apparently died between our last episode and this one, and has also grown to look even more like the Hulk. I love how this page says, next time, Surfer faces off against someone green and purple and hard to deal with. Who can it be? And then you turn to the next comic, and it's the Impossible Man? Nice fake out. Between the recap and the appearance of Impossible Man, I would prefer they just left this issue out entirely though. Impossible Man is an annoying cartoon madman, who basically bounces around like he's the Robin Williams genie until he's finally convinced that Surfer will try to get a sense of humor. Surfer concedes he might have a point and then adds, at the top of his head, then wonders if he made a joke. Not really, Surfer. Not really. Still unable to find Thanos, Surfer goes next to Mentor on Titan. He gives us still more background info on Thanos, though this isn't all just recaps. They're then interrupted by Drax, who also can't find Thanos, but can tell Surfer was recently in contact with him. We also see that Drax has now gone a little brain dead from all the dying and being resurrected stuff, because he wasn't enough like the Hulk already. He refuses to leave Surfer, clinging onto his board despite being smashed into asteroids and burned up by suns, so Surfer hits on the idea of heading to Earth. There he shows Drax the Fantastic Four's information machine, which he promises can locate Thanos. They then proceed to watch a lot of 60s TV programs until Drax is so distracted that Surfer can just slip away. Wait a minute, that's the intro to the Superman TV show. The Superman TV show exists in the Marvel Universe? How meta. I've got to admit, that's actually a pretty good joke. Almost makes the Impossible Man issue feel worth it. Almost. The last of the Silver Surfer issues brings in Nebula to the mix. She claims to be the granddaughter of Thanos and has taken control over the remains of his space fleet that we saw in the last episode. Thanos shows up to take back control of his army and feels there's no connection between him and Nebula. So he freaking sets her on fire. Man, that's messed up, Thanos. She runs out of the room and manages to get to some kind of shower to stop the fire, but collapses onto the floor near death. One of her crew, loyal to her, finds her and takes her off the ship to a place she can heal. Thanos then lures Surfer to a planet whose occupants have mastered its natural geothermal energy. While the technology is impressive, it's also a precarious balancing act to keep it from blowing up the entire planet. Suspecting another trick, Surfer decides to go all out on Thanos as quickly as possible. He then goes a little too all out, leaving Thanos nothing but a charred corpse. Though he's glad the universe is saved from Thanos' madness, he also feels bad about killing him, so he packs the body up in a box and takes it home to bury it. But this time, this was the trick. As it turns out, Thanos physically altered one of Nebula's crew to look just like him, and that's who Surfer actually killed. With the universe believing he's dead, Thanos is free to pursue his real goal of collecting the 6 Infinity Stones. It seems that after death resurrected him, Thanos gazed into something called the Infinity Well, in the hopes of learning how to better serve his mistress. There he learned about the Infinity Gems. In the beginning of time was a creature that encompassed the entire universe. Since he was everything and everything was him, he was alone in the vast infinity of reality. So he allowed himself to die, but his energy couldn't be destroyed. Instead, it got divided up and materialized as 6 stones, each with a specific power over all that is. There's space, time, reality, power, mind, and soul. Most of which are currently in the possession of people called the Elders of the Universe. Though as we know, Thanos already knew about the gems, the well also informs him that they can be combined in a way he hadn't previously expected. So he sets out to find them, starting with Adam Warlock's Soul Gem, which is now in the possession of the In-Betweener. The In-Betweener is currently being held captive by Chaos and Order and a nexus between all possible realities. Thanos offers to free him if he agrees to let Thanos serve him and protect him from Death's wrath. So they work together to pop the In-Betweener's bubble, and once they do, the In-Betweener reveals he actually has no use for Thanos and moves to kill him. Thanos reveals that he knew the In-Betweener's powers wouldn't work in the Nexus, and they only worked inside the bubble because Chaos and Order had taken pity on him in his confinement. Pretty slick trick there, Thanos. So Thanos takes the Soul Gem and moves on to a world where a man called the Champion is doing battle. The Champion has the Power Gem and uses it to make himself an invincible warrior in battle. With all that power though, he never bothered to learn how to fight, so Thanos makes a fool of him over and over again with simple dodges and counters. The Champion gets angrier and angrier until he leaps up into the atmosphere and comes down with a punch so hard that he literally blows up the entire planet. Yikes. The Champion can survive in space apparently, but has no traction or means to get anywhere. Thanos offers to transport him and trade for the Power Gem. Champ agrees and Thanos keeps his word, moving on to the next nearest world and dropping him from up above the exosphere. It's a pretty messed up move, but I'm honestly not sure if this is supposed to kill him now that he doesn't have the Power Gem, or if it's going to just blow up this planet like it did the last one. They actually never show us, so I guess pick which outcome you prefer. Next up is the Gardener, who uses his Infinity Gem to keep the most beautiful garden in all of the universe. He attempts to defeat Thanos by wrapping him up in some vines, but Thanos uses his recently obtained Power Gem to modify the Gardener's power so that when he uses it, he accidentally ages himself into a corpse. This is because the Gardener's Gem is actually the Time Gem, which he never knew. So when he grew plants, he was actually just speeding up time just for those plants. When Thanos modified the gem, it caused the Gardener to also adjust time for himself without realizing it. I mean, I guess. It's honestly not very clear, but I guess it made sense to Starlin. Next is the Runner. Man, these Elders of the Universe sure have creative names. The Runner, as you can probably guess, is the fastest being in the universe. So much so that he can even run in space, I guess. He's impossibly fast, leaving Thanos with no chance to hit him, so instead he uses his Time Gem to age the Runner millions of years until he's nothing but a broken, wrinkled old man. Thanos then takes his gem, and in a surprising moment of mercy, returns the Runner to being a baby. He then brings Baby Runner to the Collector. The Collector, as his name suggests, is obsessed with collecting things. The rarer, the better. To that end, he has an entire menagerie of rare species, and Thanos offers Baby Runner to him in exchange for his Infinity Gem. The Collector agrees if Thanos also promises to never kill him, which is probably the wisest thing any of these elders do. Thanos agrees and takes the gem from its case, revealing that it's the reality gem by warping reality around them. Far out, man. As Thanos is leaving though, Baby Runner suddenly returns to normal, and he's not too happy about the plans the Collector had for him. So last is the Grand Master. He's an expert strategist, game master, and gambler. He bets his Infinity Gem against all of Thanos's while they play a computer game where they battle from inside battle armor suits. The Game Master is able to keep Thanos on his toes, but still gets tricked by him. He was ready in the event that he actually did lose though, and rigged the game in his favor, causing Thanos' weapons to backfire on him, encasing him in a silicate shell. But Thanos didn't plan on risking anything, so he actually sent a robot duplicate in his place, a trick you may remember he used to distract opponents once before in his first appearance in Iron Man number 55. So outside the game, Thanos is free to move around and he smashes the game console, which I guess kills the Grandmaster since his mind was still inside it. Whatever the logic there, this counts as a win for Thanos, so he adds the last Infinity Gem to his collection. With the Infinity Gauntlet all assembled, Thanos returns to Death to take his place at her side as her equal, which I guess means he gets his own cool vampire tooth thrown. Aw, don't they just look so cute together? Only Death doesn't see him as an equal now, she sees him as a superior, and so Thanos learns the hard way that being a god is a lonely business. Poor Thanos. Time for the breakdown. While it can be pretty cheesy, I actually really like Thanos Quest. The art is great, especially Tom Vincent's colors, which make it look almost hand-painted. And getting to see Thanos go around being a manipulative, clever bastard is pretty fun. The Silver Surfer issues that comprise the majority of this collection, though, I can pretty much do without. They're a little boring and mostly pointless, and exist mainly to remind people that Thanos was once a thing and that he did some stuff. And really, they mostly could have covered that by making Thanos Quest a slightly longer series. So I'm going to go ahead and give this collection a recommendation level of medium. Again, it's mostly worth it for Thanos Quest, but even that I wouldn't consider absolutely necessary reading before taking on Infinity.